Aloha, it's Clint Hansen with Maui Luxury Real Estate, and you're on Maui Real Estate Radio. You can listen to this and all shows at mauirealestateradio.com or search for real estate at mauirealestate.net, our website. You're joining us on the KAOI radio group, 1110 a.m., and we broadcast every morning at 7 a.m. as you're cruising in your car to work. And of course, you can find us online wherever you find your podcasts. Today, of course, I have Byron Yap with Axia Home Loans. It's just going to be me and him today. We don't have a special speaker or anything along those lines. We'll be doing our best to keep this as smooth as possible because we've got not only some statistics to go over, but we wanted to do a new segment like I like to call old news. Just kind of going over some past articles and see how long it takes to get through them, as well as a way to smooth it out, because there's good important things that are important to me as well as real estate that I think we should go over and recap. How you doing, Byron? Introduce yourself.
Good morning, Byron Yap here with Axia Home Loans, NMLS number 860092. Everything is going great on Maui today, and I look forward to hearing what stats you can bring about the real estate and kind of share with our community, and we'll let you take over, Clint.
All right. Well, it's not so great. I'm in Olinda right now. I had to bug bomb, well, actually tent my house. I had some termites in it. Anybody who lives in Maui kind of knows you're in a tropical environment, and if you have a house made of wood, termites like that. So I'm not selling my house, but typically during the process, you have to put all your stuff into bags, and it takes a long time to get the house ready. And then they tent it. It only takes about 24 hours, but I went up to my parents' house in Olinda. So I'm up here on their property right now. You can see office looks a little different. There's a suit of armor back there. And it's beautiful, but man, it is windy today on the island. How about where you're at, Byron?
Yep, I'm down in Kihei. I live in Maui Lani, and it was windy this morning there, and it seems to be a little windy here in Kihei. So I think there was not a cold front. There was some kind of wind front or something coming on, or not
Yeah,
sure
a
what's
bit
going
of a
on.
wind front that was coming through. And let me go into a little screen share right here just to kind of show people some general information. Oh, I won't be able to do that. Never mind. But I'm going to do screen share to kind of go over the statistics that I have drum up, as well as what we have through our own real estate information system. So first, I wanted to talk on a more national level, and I went to where we are, not Redfin. The National Board of Realtors, which if you look at realtor.com, which is not, I think this is kind of one of the most telling things. And I want to compare these national statistics compared to our local statistics. So you can see they do this by color. 2017 is blue, and that's of course before the pandemic. You can see this is the line, and this is seasonality. And typically in the mainland, unlike here, there's much more seasonal effect associated with sales. So you can see there's this big arch where, during the summer months, volume increases, and then it goes back down as December comes. So this seasonality is very common year after year after year. So, and then you can see on the left-hand side, this shows the prices. So back in 2017, average or median, I believe, yeah, pending listing count. So total pending listing count, the numbers that are on the market. This is not what I was thinking it was. This is not by price.
It looks like it's
Okay.
for the viewers on the radio. It looks like it's the amount of inventory out there. Is that what I'm
Yeah,
seeing?
this is national inventory. I was actually looking for median sales price, but this is helpful to figure out where we're at. So you can see as people were moving across the United States as the pandemic hit between 2018, 2019, this red line, 2020, 2022. But you can see the big jump was right in the midst of the pandemic. Had the most homes for sale. But now inventory has dropped dramatically back down to where it was previously. So now I want to compare that to something that's a little bit more local. Now this is the homes for sale since 2018, the same statistic, and then now 2013. Now this is about a month behind and kind of important to point out. So you can see also, as it goes, if we want to go just to a 1 year, there's not that seasonality. I mean, look, this is flat. There is not that big arch that you typically see. Maui doesn't have seasonality comparatively because we have such stable weather patterns. People are coming to look for property year round, whether they live here or that are visiting. But the big thing that I want to see as we go back to over 5 years is you can see back in 2018, we had a large number of homes. I mean, 1,323, almost 1,400 homes for sale. And then at our lowest point, 405. That's a third as many properties that are on the market normally. And then do you see it coming back to normalcy? Like back in 2018? No, you see inventory remaining dramatically low. So that is a huge difference, and there's not a big correction. I mean, it's not coming up and adjusting. So typically inventory tells us what our prices are going to be. And, with so many people having refied their homes at very low rates, there's not a lot of motivation to sell their property, because unless they can transfer their loan, which 99% of the time they can't transfer their loan to a new property, there's going to be no reason to sell.
So what we're seeing then for the listeners on the radio is, correct me if I'm wrong here, we had an inventory in 2018 of about 1,400 homes for sale or somewhere in that area. And now we're down from 2022, starting in 2022, we're seeing an average of homes of about 400 homes on the market. Is that what I'm seeing?
Precisely. And that's properties in general. It's not just homes, it's condos as well.
Okay.
Actually, no, this is, just this is properties. So, and it's not really correcting, unlike how it has in the mainland. Now, of course, we also go to price as well, and this is on the median level. I have 3 graphs here. You can see Maui Meadows, Maui Lani, and the entire MLS. The entire MLS is this blue line. And you can see it's been a steady increase from about 600,000
and that's in 2018, right?
Yeah, 2018 to 1 million. So that's in that 5-year period, we went up nearly, 80% in value. That's a huge difference. 600,000 to now, that's a massive increase. And you can see in Maui Meadows, that's kind of been the biggest jump as well, because they started at 1,225,000. Those are half-acre lots, and then going up to 2.4 or 2.5. So, I mean, that is doubling in price. So that's kind of been the area of the largest increase. Now, people really like Maui Meadows because of where it is. It's near Wailea, and they're large lots, and you don't have to deal with an association. Of course, you don't have some of the great features that Wailea has because they don't have underground utilities like power lines. So it depends on your house on whether or not you're going to have power lines in front. But typically, big half-acre lots and good views because of the hillside. It's on the other side of the highway.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things I wanted to kind of go over in the differences is inventory and the recent changes. And one of the reasons why I want to just kind of talk about statistics with just you and I. Now, if you go homes for sale, this doesn't tell you the whole picture because it only tells you the stuff from the last month, to 2 months. Now you can see back there, Maui Meadows was at about 11 properties, Maui Lani 24 properties, and overall in Hawaii 1,323, which we already said. Now you come back down here and you look at Maui Meadows, it says 6. Now, that's actually up to about 10 now. So that's a pretty dramatic increase. So, and there's about 2 sales per month in Maui Meadows at any given time. So if you take that into consideration, you pretend that nothing comes in, we have what's called an absorption rate, meaning if nothing came on, how long it would take before all those properties sell. And that's called inventory. Where is that button? New listings, months of supply. That's it. So months of supply is an easier graph to read because it takes the averaging out. And you can see, you know, as we go on, the entire MLS generally had about, back in 2018, 6 months of supply. Then come in 2020, during the beginning of the pandemic, you see about 4.6. So a dramatic reduction. Maui Lani, 3.2. 3.2. That, you know, the interesting thing is people don't realize in 2019, when you can see the drop here as well, 3.6 months, Maui Lani was the second place in the entire United States for people buying second homes. So it makes it pretty tough for people on Maui, you know, trying to compete with mainland people in order to purchase a home, because they're trying to make their primary and people are making secondary. But the prices are so inflated, they're looking for opportunities, and Maui Lani tends to be that. So, but here's the big shift. You come right at 2021 and then into 2022, you can see it's pretty average. Maui Lani is still dropping 1.8 months. The entire MLS is 5.3 months. A year later, in 22, you have a month of inventory. What is that? A half a month of inventory, literally nothing in Maui Lani in 2022, and then a month and a half in Maui Meadows. That's there's nothing. There's literally nothing for sale. But you're starting to see that number increase as we're getting on the upswing. So the entire MLS, there's 2.1 months. Maui Lani is 1.4 months. And Maui Meadows is 2.7 months.
So that graph basically shows, correct me if I'm wrong here as I'm reading this for our listeners, is that that's the amount of inventory that's available for sale, meaning a month's worth or half a month? What is this?
So what they do is they take the number of sales compared to the number of properties that are going that have sold. On average. So they say, okay, 2 properties have sold compared to the amount of properties that are for sale. Let's say 4. So if that means 2 sold in a month and then there's 4 for sale, that's 2 months of inventory. So it's an equation in which they figure out how much inventory they have. Of course, if there's only 1 home for sale and it stays 1 home, but it's 10 times more than it should be, it's never going to sell. So you still have to, you know, take things into consideration, because there's homes that have been for sale in Maui Meadows for, you know, 6-7 months. And if your property's been for sale for that long, it means that got to lower your price. You're just simply priced too high.
Okay.
Sorry, just recovering from a sniffly nose and have a little bit of a cough. Let's see here. So I want to go back into some of the more national statistics. If you look at that, this is the median prices. Now it goes by, for some reason it went to California. Let's go back to Hawaii, right there. You can see the majority, and it shows over here. Let me move this so you can see. The median prices in Honolulu are actually lower than Maui. We're at $1.3 million for a house, and they're at $800,000 in Honolulu. And now Kauai is actually higher. Now, taking that into consideration, you look at this, it shows that Maui and Kauai are kind of the meccas of some of the highest price, meaning we bear the burden of the unaffordability because people like our weather patterns, they like our small town feel. Maui is just more desirable, but really the crux of it is it's very difficult to build here. Getting stuff done in Maui is really hard. and there's not a lot of affordable projects. We have about a 10,000 home shortfall. Now, fortunately, they have had a few projects that have recently gotten approved. That's about 1,800 homes or something like that. That's still not nearly enough because we're at a shortfall of 10,000. So just to meet demand, we need 10,000, and that's not really enough to kind of push prices down that enough to make it more in the affordable range. So Maui is trying to work towards creating opportunities for developers. It's been a thorn in our sides for years to try to get the county to help with the costs. Now, Kihei especially has been usually the developer's responsibility to put in infrastructure. Like, you know, when California and Canadian developers were like, oh, back in the 70s, we should build in Kihei. Everyone's like, bro, why would you want to be out in Kihei? It's dirt roads. It's like nobody's out there. It's all dry, but it's beautiful beaches, right? And stable weather patterns. So they're like, we'll bring the water. We'll put the, you know, sewer. Let's get this done. And the county's like, okay, sure. And that kind of became the norm up until 1990. And it remained that way. And then nothing really got built from 1990, you know, to 2020. There's been just an insufficient amount of properties being built in that period of time. That's why pretty much everything you look at is going to be, you know, built before 2000. You know, it's not common to really come across newer homes, except in these small little pockets. So, and that's because it's just so expensive to build. You know, if you go to Maui County and you ask them for what typically people do, a bond in order to do those improvements, they just weren't doing it. I mean, normally the county would improve the land and sell entitled land ready to go to a developer, and they'd be like, this is what you build, these affordable houses. And they'd be like, okay, we can factor that in. But making the county responsible, making the developer responsible is really difficult because even if you're just running from the road to the house, a pole, MECO is charging something like $60,000. I mean, if you're trying to build an affordable house and just running electricity is a huge percentage of the cost, that makes it very difficult. I mean, that's not including roads, water, all that stuff eats up those infrastructure costs. So, I mean, even if you were to build a house, each one of those, you know, houses in a high density area is still going to be at like $600,000-$700,000. And if you're trying to sell it for $500,000, that means developers are going to have to be willing to take $100,000 loss in order to build. So nothing got built unless it was a high-end property. And the county was for years like, oh, these developers, how dare they, you know? But they're not going to throw money away. They're not going to lose money, even though some developers have been willing to do that. They literally have lost money on projects. And they're like, okay, well, if you're going to build these affordable houses, if these profitable properties, you need to build affordable properties too. But that still didn't work because it just meant they didn't make any money on either project. So now you can go to the county, and if you're selling a home that's worth $1 million for $500,000, they will put that difference into tax rebates and things of that nature, credits. So that's hopefully going to make a difference. But still, you have to go through our very difficult process of getting permits approved. So if you're trying to go to the county, you know, and entitle land, that is a whole nother issue. And even through the fast track process, everybody's NIMBY, not in my backyard. They don't want development, which is really unfortunate because that's their kids, that's their family. And when these affordable houses are getting built, they're only getting sold to locals if they're going to meet that affordable criteria. So that means, you know, in that price index, you know, certain income levels, it's like 86,000 to 120,000 of gross household income. if you meet those criteria, in a first-time home buyer, you could be one of the first people that get in, and you're basically buying a house for half its value. So that's wonderful. That's why, I remember back in the day, when you were the developer loan officer, there was development coming up and you were able to release to everybody. I literally drove there and sat in line and then called my brother up, and he camped there, and then my buyers camped there. We were there for 3 nights trying to wait to get a place. I mean, that's really what it takes to kind of get affordable housing done. So it's difficult and hard to build something. Now that the county's working on it, hopefully we'll hit 5, 6, 7,000 homes that are going to be built over a 5 to 10 year period, but we don't really have the skilled labor to build at that kind of volume. So my guess is the max we'll see is like 500, 600 homes a year, and that's just not going to meet it. Hopefully the skilled labor will build, with higher wages, and we'll get some inventory for locals here. Here we come to the median sales price. This is actually the statistic I was looking at before, trying to find, and this is over a 5-year period.
Now, this is nationally, right?
Yeah, this is nationally. So you can see in 2017 on a national level, the average price is at like $275,000 for a home. Now it peaked in 2022 and, nearly doubled. I mean, we're sitting here at $425,000. And now they've actually seen a pretty significant drop off on a national level. It's gone down to $380,000 from that 420. So that's about a fifth, a little bit less than a fifth. Now, of course, if we go back to our statistics for Hawaii and it goes to sales price, we're just stable. We're just solidly inclining. And that, again, is all about inventory. And we're just a really desirable place, and it's really difficult to build. And that's going to continue to keep those inventory levels low. Do people have to sell? No. They've refinanced their homes at 3%, again, meaning inventory is going to remain low. This is a really good opportunity to make a move to the mainland if you're in Hawaii, because your buying power comparative to mainland markets have shifted. So their prices are beginning to drop, yours isn't. So if you want to take advantage of what's called a 1031 exchange, that's something that you could do right now. You could go in there and if you're a second home buyer, you could basically go ahead and sell the property and not pay capital gains because you're transferring that value into one or more properties. Sell a house here, buy 2 or 3 properties in the mainland, and then rent those out long term. You're going to do a lot better. But of course, you're not going to have a place in Maui. So it's a trade-off. Many people who are living here, the high cost of living, the difficulty in just paying rent or your mortgage, especially with high fees, they sell their home here. They can use that capital to buy something cash in the mainland, so they have no mortgage. That's huge. That's a great opportunity. And some people are doing the reverse. They're selling maybe a business like apartment complexes or commercial in the mainland. They're doing a 1031 exchange, and then they're buying something else in the mainland and using a fraction to buy a home here. They're renting that out long-term or a condominiums more commonly, because vacation rental properties are something you can short-term rent. They can generate that income. They basically then use that place for a couple of weeks out of the year. It helps pay for them. And then they're still using that capital from their sale in other investments. And if you're living in a home you actually have this wonderful opportunity. If you're living on Maui and you've got all this capital gain, meaning you bought a house for 700,000, it's now worth $1 million, or maybe at $1.5 million. People don't, if it's a single person, they don't have to pay any tax on $250,000 of their gain if they've lived in it for 2 years. If it's two people, husband and wife, and they filed jointly, that's $500,000. That means you could sell a house, and if your gain is $500,000, you don't have to pay any tax on that whatsoever. And even if you're just trading across and buying something else on Maui, do it now, because you have a huge increase in value. If you've lived in your house for 2 years, take your capital gain now, and then you can buy a property now, even if it's somewhere else on the island, and then you've got that new stepping stone. That dollar has raised, you've made that gain. So you have a new house that you bought for $500,000 more. And then if and when the property increases in value again, and you guys sell your primary residence, you're making that shift up. So it's hugely important to make those moves, sell your property and trade into it if it's your primary residence. And I'm surprised people don't do it, but I totally understand it because interest rates are so high. So what's going on that you're noticing in interest rates right now?
Well, the mortgage world has really changed since 2021. Some examples are the end of 2021, the rates were at 3%. Now, currently, in this year, beginning of 2023, we're looking at low sixes. The rates have gone, so they've doubled basically. Another thing that's happened, if you look at the stats for 2021 versus 2022, refinances based on MSNBC, it's down 87%. So basically the cliff, it's fallen off the cliff, the refinances. Now the purchases have actually dropped in 2022 versus 2021 about 42%. Mortgages. So you can see that's kind of made it not off the full cliff, but has made a big drop based on, the rates changing, almost doubling within a year. And, we're seeing it starting to climb up again, slowly, the interest rates. I think the Fed meets in March and they're talking about another 25 basis points for the Fed funds rate, which in turn affects the mortgage rate, we're seeing. So there's a lot of volatility still. We are seeing, however, in the beginning of 2023, the more interest. People are talking about rates, getting pre-qualified, pre-approved. So there's a little more interest going on. We don't know if it's going to continue to go up, but hope all signs are there that potentially, we could see a better year than 2022. Now, it won't be an astronomical year like 2020 or 2021, but it might be just a flat line year versus off of a cliff or off of a, falling off the edge.
Because we've seen kind of a drop off a cliff more recently. And I think a lot of that has to do with just nothing to buy. There's just not a lot of options out there, even if somebody is ready to buy. The weird thing is our website, mauirealestate.net, is in a lot of ways better than Zillow. And the reason it's better than Zillow is you can search for vacation rentable properties and you can see whether or not something is leasehold or fee simple. So people call me from Zillow all the time and they're like, is this vacation rentable? I'm like, no, Kihei Shores is not vacation rentable. You'll never be able to vacation rent it. Don't even try. There's big fines associated with it. If you want, go to my website, mauirealestate.net, and you can search for vacation rental properties there. So, there's a form of ownership here called leasehold, and that's where you're not purchasing the land. You're purchasing the right to lease the land for a given period of time. That really mostly applies to condos, and most of the case, it can be a scary thing because at the end of the period, there's a potential for it to go to the remainderman, the person that owns the land. Likely not going to happen because, if it's oceanfront, you can't tear down the building, rebuild because it's oceanfront. So now if it's a leasehold home, it's most likely on Hawaiian homelands where you have to have 50% ownership in the property, or 50% Native Hawaiian blood in order to purchase one of those ceded properties. Now, that's a long history lesson that we're not going to get into right now, but that's to benefit people of Native Hawaiian heritage.
Now, Now,
So
since you guys have a website that's been around for a while, what is the traffic like now, for people looking? Has it gone down? What did it do the last year?
that is the weirdest part, because during 2021 and 2020, we did see a small spike. Yeah. And then as kind of prices got up, there was definitely a drop off, towards the end of 2021, things were going down. And then I'm like, okay, interesting. But even though sales went down dramatically in 2022, and now the amount of volume of people of searching is at an all-time high. I have never seen this many people looking for real estate, especially super high-end stuff, like the stuff that's 5, 10, 15, 25 million dollars. There are people with crazy money that's looking right now, and they're fence sitting because they're hoping prices drop, even though there's so little oceanfront, there's so little, nice, big estates like that. I just don't see it happening, but they're just what we call fence sitters. They're waiting to see what's going to happen in the market. And while there has been an increase in inventory in this level, there hasn't really been a big decrease in price. So if you are high end, if you are looking to buy a 10 million, $5 million property, you'd better buy it now, because that oceanfront property for, $10 million is probably going to be twice that in several years, because you can't build on the ocean anymore the ways that you used to be able to. They're not making it, they're not releasing any more neighborhoods or anything like that. So if you're interested in that, do it now. And good luck. Most of those people are cash, because the amount of demand that I'm seeing and searching is it's eclipsed what I've seen before. And same thing with regular homes. People are anticipating opportunity because they're like, market slowdown, I can buy something, I have a job, unemployment's at an all-time low. So there's tons of people looking, but they're like, when are these prices going to drop? I don't know if they are, because if you've got a home now and you're trying to buy something, you're probably going to need to get a loan, unless you're cash. If you could transfer your loan, then obviously you would. So talk to your lender, see if that's a possibility, but it's probably not.
Now, I know 2021, maybe the beginning of 2022, there was like, and I'm asking you from the real estate side, there was always multiple offers on properties. What are you seeing, or what's going on? Like, is it again still multiple offers, competing wars? What's happening with the offers out there?
No, a lot of interest, but not a multiple offer situation. Unless something's priced below market value, we're not seeing a feeding frenzy like we were before. Huge numbers of inquiries, lots of interest. Showings are lower, but offers are generally one at a time. It's not as competitive as it once was. So that's the thing I'd have to tell people. If you want a value, you got to make it happen. You got to get out there and write offers. If you don't, you're not going to see what they're going to be willing to sell for. That's prices are still listing where they were. If you want a better price, you're going to have to put pen to paper and see if they're going to be willing to negotiate. And that's going to be really your only chance.
Now, I had heard, and I don't know if this is true, maybe you can tell me. I heard the hot sector is still the condo market, somewhat, the condo market, and the home market seems to be, for the homes that are, let's just say, under $1.5 million, seem to be the slower side. What's really going out there for our listeners and viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all is part and parcel to inventory, and comparative to prices. For single family homes, the biggest issue is having something that's priced well and finished, something that doesn't have a lot of issues to it. If you have a really nice finished home in the upper, to median price range, it'll sell well. You won't have a large number of days on market. You might even go multiple offer. If you are a lower priced home, and it needs work, some people are saying, hey, my house that needs a new roof, doesn't have solar, needs to be painted, birds living in the attic, all these things. And they're like, hey, I saw a home in my neighborhood sell for 1.2 million. I want to sell mine for 1.2 million. It's like, well, that one had wood floors and a redone kitchen, and you have an original kitchen and all these other issues. that's means you got to sell closer to $1 million, because that's people don't want to have to do that work, and they have to factor in those expenses too. So, and they'll sit on the market, they'll negotiate. Sometimes they come off the market because they want to buy something else on island. Maybe they want to buy something in the mainland. Because I mean, you could literally get, if you're retiring right now off of Maui and you're buying somewhere in Montana or Idaho, maybe lakefront property or something like that, you can get an estate comparatively for the difference. And it's, just a question of whether or not you're willing to deal with that seasonality. Many people I know, they want to sell their place here, buy a condo here and a house in the mainland. And that's because the demand for condos is not really happening either. It's a hard competitive thing. And one more thing I wanted to show you. Let's get back into the screen share. Yeah, here it is. So you can see all over the United States, this is the outbound people that are selling and moving out of the state, and inbound. So we were actually at an outbound for the longest time. These are now, you can see Hawaii is inbound. There's about 6,000 people positive moving in compared to moving out. Population has really been dropping in Hawaii because of our high cost of living for a long time. Now, this is people that can do remote work and they're looking to move in. The highest area is Florida. There's a lot of people who go in, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Of course, it's been 180 years since Maui has been hit by a hurricane, and we have some of the most stable weather patterns compared to Florida, who has regular hurricanes that you have to deal with. So that does tell a tale of what, gives motivation and stability to somebody's decision on where they want to go. Now, Florida is a much bigger area. There's a lot more opportunity, and properties are significantly cheaper there. California, especially in these high density areas and coastal areas, prices have shot up so dramatically, people are just moving out all over. And that's where they're hitting, Washington, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Nevada. Oregon has kind of been more in the middle, probably because of their crazy high property taxes. That increases the cost of ownership the same way that high property values do. So the state benefits from their much more less capitalist side, with the word I'm looking for. But anyway, their high taxes really, hurt property owners in a way that they don't in other of these more tax favorable states. So people are moving away from these areas and moving out. So that only helps people that are already well established financially, that can deal with that. It really hurts renters because they pass that on. And that's one of the things I'm really curious. I know there's a proposed wealth tax here in Hawaii right now for people with $20 million in assets. That makes it pretty hard for people who are multi-generational households. There's people, out in McKenna, people who have been on island for, the last 100 years, and they own, a house in McKenna, or since, their great-great-grandfather that has been packed down since before the Great Mahele, that it's been in their native Hawaiian family. And if their property is worth $20 million, they might have to sell because they're going to be paying, a tax on that property. This, of course, is meant to affect people more of income that are really wealthy, that are moving here full time, but they'll just minimize their assets under the $20 million mark. There was an East Coast place, I think it was like Delaware or something like that, a county, and they increased their taxes. And it affected one guy who grew up there and he lived there multiple generations, and he had to leave because of the tax implication. And because of that, they had budgetary shortfall from one person moving out. I mean, this is a huge net worth billionaire guy that loves his hometown, but he couldn't afford to be there anymore because the taxes were so dramatic. So wealth taxes make sense, but you got to make sure it's A, not too high, and B, the price point at which you do it is not too low. $20 million might seem like a large amount of assets, but if somebody has a commercial unit here, like let's just say they own a Walgreens, or they own like she just passed away unfortunately, but like the Rainbow Mall in PA, that alone is $20 million. And then to have a 1% tax on top of that is going to mean she would have had to leave the state. I mean, she's been here 50 years. And that can really pull a lot of taxes in a way. So that's not really a real estate question. That's more of a policy. So I think if they increase that number, maybe to 100 million or something like that, that might make sense because they can bear those taxes better. 1% isn't a big number. It's not like some of the places that are like, we should do a 5 or 3%. It's still a little bit high. Maybe make that a 0.5%. Think about edging it back and forth in fractions of a percent. But 1% is an impossible number for a family that has owned a property for multiple generations that doesn't have the means. It's not commercial. So Maui's got to be smart, and $20 million is just too low of a number. Let's see, let's go back out.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
We've seen with the interest rates go up, mortgage companies maybe shut their doors or reduce their staff significantly. What has happened in the real estate with the agents? I mean, have you seen an increase in agents, or a push down, or a leveling off? What are you seeing out there?
I have seen a decrease in the number of agents that are out there. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, I'm going to be a real estate agent. I'm going to sell property. It's easy. It's not. I've been doing this 22 years now. It's very difficult. I mean, especially in Hawaii, it's not like New York where you just send it to an attorney and then they hash out the paperwork. You kind of have to be able to do a lot of the paperwork. Escrow is only a third party where they handle the money and some of the basics and title insurance. Now, I have agents that come to us that want to move into our office, and they're from the mainland. And they say, hey, I was selling real estate. I want to come out here, sell real estate. Well, where they're from, maybe a third of the percent of the population is a real estate agent. Here, it's like 1.2% of the population is a real estate agent. That's 3 or 4 times the number of real estate agents comparatively. There's not a lot of volume of real estate compared to our population, especially now. That means there's less to go around. That means the winners, people that experience, have a lot of history here. They're the ones that are going to benefit the most. And those lower number of sales are going to mean agents are going to go years. Normally an agent that comes on might make 1 sale a year, or 1 sale every other year. Then your second year, you might make 2, maybe 3. And then it's about building your contact resource management system and going on and on. So if you're a newer agent, it's going to be a while. You're probably going to want to carry another job, maybe something that's reciprocal, where you get into property management and you hopefully meet buyers that are looking to sell their rental or whatnot. But right now, if you just don't have something where you're a gatekeeper in the business, it's not really a good idea to have your real estate license right now. And it'll probably be like this for the rest of the actually, I'm very puzzled because the last 2 weeks has been crazy. I'm getting a lot of requests and a lot of showings that are happening. I've gotten a lot more offers than I've seen. So I'm curious to see what happens in the next couple of months, and we'll see.
One of the things, when the market was hot and busy, is a lot of the, the residents, such as, the locals and us, we own a property. The thing was, we couldn't trade across or trade up, sell our current to get a better location. Would you say this is a time that we should reconsider that because of the market? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for 2 things though. If you live here now, and you own, you should think about selling your place and buying something that's already on island. And then that changes your basis, because like I said, if you have $500,000 in capital gain between you and your spouse, then guess what? You should sell, and then your basis changes. So if value drops, you get to write off that loss. Oh man, I lost money. That means that's still a net positive for you. That's huge. So the reason you might not want to do this though is because, hey, what if you have a loan on your property, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a loan, then your mortgage is going to be higher now. You know, your basis will change, but your rate's going to be higher. Now, will they have something that they call date the rate, right? So there's two things. If you get a loan now, doesn't mean you're stuck at that interest rate. It means you're going to have to pay the fee, the $20,000 to refinance when rates drop back down. So, what are you seeing, you know, right now? I heard that in the last little bit that rates have dropped just a touch. What are you
Yes.
seeing?
Yeah, they dropped a touch. And that's why I was asking, because I've had people that have owned properties that are calling saying, hey, you know, we might want to downsize our home because we're getting older to a condo, or we might, you know, we have a 2-story home. We'd rather have a 1-story home. You know, we bought this home in 1981 or whatever. You know, I'm seeing that. So I was just curious on that, because you know, they have a lot of equity in there. You know, they could trade down, or, you know, to a simpler living.
If
or
you're
whatever.
mostly cash, 100%, great time to do it. You know, sell your larger home, kids have moved out, you know, get a 2-bedroom place, you know, or condo in a good location. That's what I would go for. I mean, especially if you want to travel a bit more. With prices dropping in the mainland, you know, maybe you sell your house here, buy a condo here, and then buy a house in the mainland. You know, you want to go fishing during the summer season, spring and fall, you get that opportunities in the mainland that you can have a nice, beautiful estate on a lake or a river. That's not something that you can get here for a comparable price. I mean, you can get, you know, in Oregon on a river, a house for $1.5 million. That's, you know, 4,000 square feet for $1.5 million. For here, a $1.5 million house gets you a 3, maybe 4-bedroom house, you know, nice finishes, decent finishes, okay, on 0.2 of an acre, you know, maybe 0.12 of an acre. It's significantly smaller. So if you instead sell it, you know, let's just say you buy something a little bit more rural, you could get something on a river or a lake in Oregon for under $1 million, and you know, a condo here for $500,000. That means you have cash in your hand, you have your winter place here, and then you've got your summer and fall and spring in the mainland. And that gives you the opportunity to travel around in an RV, you know. I think it's a fantastic time to sell. But Maui's the best. Why would you want to leave? So it's just hard, you know. For me, if you've got money, downsize and throw as much into the stock market. I mean, maybe not all at once. Maybe you want to average in, but I think Microsoft is just a huge opportunity right now. It's, you know, they've increased. I put a fair amount in when ChatGPT came out. They're going to be the #1 stakeholder in OpenAI, and artificial intelligence is about to rock our world more than the internet ever has. So Microsoft is pretty much the largest player out there. Elon Musk is an original founder of OpenAI, so he has a lot of ownership, but that's not Tesla. That's him as an individual. So there's no correlation between business ownership, and he's not, like, Tesla's not going to benefit. SpaceX isn't going to benefit in the same way that Microsoft is, because Microsoft's the infrastructure, and Microsoft is now the #1 stakeholder. They put, I believe they're like 10 billion into it. And they just started putting it into Bing. So you can go to OpenAI and you can talk to it just the same way that you talk a person. Language models are about to change the world. So I'd like to sell our house and, move into a family house or something. And I've fortunately strategically been putting in money over time, but I think there's no better opportunity. I said the same thing right when the pandemic hit, and there was a massive drop. I mean, things were down huge numbers, and I was like, when there's blood in the streets, buy. And you've seen big changes. I think the Fed was potentially not going to go 0.25. I think they're going to see this little rebound in the economy, because they do these. The reason they went from a half a point to a quarter point is as a test. So I believe that this next time, because the stock market, there was improvements when they, even though it was an increase of a smaller percentage, people are like, oh, good, things are getting better. But that causes inflation when there's reinvestment. So they're trying to flatten out the market and bring those numbers down. So I think they're going to go up. Markets will still drop down, but there's huge opportunities out there. And I think that Microsoft is definitely one of those. Tesla, they dropped the price of their cars, and now you get the tax incentive. They got something like 2 million pre-orders. So their stock market, they're dropped after hemorrhaging huge values. And their cars are 20 times more profitable than a Honda. So his whole thing is volume. That's why he's building a gigapress. That's why he's building these factories all over. So all he has to do is drop the price, and he can effectively increase that demand. And so Teslas are going to get cheaper and cheaper, and that demand's going to maintain. I think it's like half of all electric cars in California are Teslas. So he's taking a large percentage. Go on. What was your other question?
Something my other question was, we had talked about the change, downgrading, if someone wants to trade across the board for a home, those kind of things. I guess, as we come to our end, what do you see, or what do you feel, or what should people do, if they're interested, should there be interest? Should they be monitoring the market? How can someone, be attuned to the market better? Should they follow your website? What should a normal person should do, like me?
Well, it's all about opportunity in their individual situation. Talk to your lender. Give Byron a call, whether you're thinking about buying at some point, and you just give that lender a call. And you gotta make sure you're prepared for when there's an opportunity. These houses that are going to be built, if you're a Maui person, you gotta know what's happening. Shoot us an email. We can talk about developments that are going to be coming on. I camp out for my clients. I'm out there helping them get a house. And if you haven't bought a house before, you're in that affordable range, now is the time as these projects come on in the next couple of years. You got to put your reservation down. So
now,
on the contact.
On the other thing for you, the last thing I have is you see all these developments. Supposedly, there's a bunch of affordables coming available. Should they reach out to you still, even though they can walk in and do it, get representation, because there is going to be some affordables coming up?
Yeah, there is. The best thing you can do, and I help my clients out, because when you go directly to the developer, then you are fighting a sea of other potential buyers. You don't have somebody specifically representing your interest. And B, I am familiar with the process of buying a brand new home. Even though it's a brand new home, there's still problems that come up, things that are installed incorrectly, and getting those things fixed. You want to make sure you have an open eye on that checklist that goes through, and what's appropriate to ask for. And more importantly, somebody is vying for you to get that place. So shoot me an email, Clint Hansen, clinthansen33@gmail.com. But just go to our website, mauirealestate.net, and you can put in a request there. Anything that you're interested, you can pick my mom, my dad, me, just send us info, and we will vie for you. We will make sure you get that opportunity when it comes out.
Right.
We sell high-end properties, but the funny thing is our passion is affordable housing, because there's just not enough of it. It pains me to help teachers try to find a home out here, and they've got kids. I spent over a year and a half with one set of clients trying to find a property, and finally getting something, it's like blows my mind that somebody like a teacher, two teachers can't get a place and live on the island that they work. I mean, no wonder it's so hard to get teachers here. So we helped create Nahalio Maui, which is a community land trust, which is affordable housing in perpetuity. It's one of the only community land trusts on the island. And that's a huge loss to us. We spent a ton of money in order to fund that. And it's a 501c3 out and out. They own that shared ownership with people that come in, and 80% of the people that buy into that model trade out into the open market. Because when you are in a shared ownership situation, when you buy a house, it's still a first-time home buyer. They don't have enough homes. They need, in my opinion, about 500 homes, and they have, less than, I think, about 60 at this point. So that will be something that develops over time. But call Byron, shoot him an email. What's your contact?
Yeah, my email, just in closing, is Byron, BYRON .yap, YAP, at axiahomeloans.com, or you can look me up at axiahomeloans.com for Maui. Those are best way to get a hold of me. Yeah,
you can always just Google Axia Home Loans Byron as well. And he'll just come right up. And same thing with me. You can always, funny thing is, we're #1 search parameter in Google for Maui real estate. So we're usually the very top one after the ads. We get 40,000 unique visitors to our website every single month. So it's a real heavy hitter out there. And we have great statistics on condos. You can just click in and see where things have been, where they are at. And it's a very powerful tool. Oh man, I've been sharing this whole time. It's funny.
Nice.
All right, there we go. Stop here. There we go. So my question to you, Byron, is with that uptick, what's the general advice that you're giving to people?
Well, I mean, basically, get pre-qualified, look at your credit, check everything out, check your financial health. I even tell people they don't think they can qualify. Let's look at it. Maybe we can do a loan today. Maybe we have to work on some things, and it might take us 6 months or a year. The main thing is, sitting down and having that conversation with a lender and a realtor, if you're interested in the market, just to get a feel. It's better to have tried than not to have tried at all.
Well, and also have a plan. A lot of people don't realize that there's small things they can do to dramatically increase how much they can loan, what their monthly payments are. And it's essential that they talk to a lender about those strategies, because even if you're not buying now, in 1 to 2 years, you can be in so much better of a position that you can buy something for hundreds of thousands of more dollars and be paying even less in a monthly payment. So call Byron, reach out to him. Axia Home Loans is a phenomenal resource to go to.
Yep.
And now we were going to talk about old news, weren't we?
We were, but we're going to have to close it down to the hour for the hour. And then
it flies by. I mean, it's a lot to go by, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it next time.
Thank you for joining. This is again Clint Hansen at Maui Real Estate Radio. You can listen to us on the KAI radio group, 7 a.m. Monday mornings, or you can tune in at MauiRealEstateRadio.com, where you can see this and all our other older shows. This one's not going to play more commonly. This is kind of a play maybe 1 or 2 times, and then you won't hear it again, unlike our 1031 shows and whatnot that are more timeless. And there's valuable tools out there, and you can always go search for real estate. As we all know, MauiRealEstate.net is the #1 search tool out there for real estate, whether you're looking for tax information, statistics, county info, vacation rentable, leasehold fee simple. It has all those parameters in there. So definitely go to MauiRealEstate.net. And Byron, yourself?
If you want to look me up, you can go to axiahomeloans.com and look up, it'll be near Maui, or you can email me at byron.yap@axiahomeloans.com.
All right.
Aloha. Aloha.